So what do we do now about Ukraine? Obviously, this didn't have to happen. It is a result of Biden's poor leadership. It is a result of politicians in the United States and Europe being idiots, falling for, well, Putin's trickery, his more than a decade strategy to render the United States and Europe dependent on Russian oil. This is a lose-lose that didn't have to be, and I will always say this. I will never be able to stop myself from saying this. But one of the people that's been very wrong on this, or who is very wrong on this, is, well, conservatives have been very wrong on this. And one of the ones, so as not to be vague, that I'm talking about is Senator Marco Rubio. This is what he said on ABC this weekend. Take a look at this.
Florida, the Vice Chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Senator Rubio, thanks for joining us this morning. You were on that Zoom yesterday with President Zelensky. Are you and your colleagues now more open to a no-fly zone?
You know, look, a no-fly zone has become a catchphrase. I'm not sure a lot of people fully understand what that means. That means flying AWACS 24 hours a day. That means the willingness to shoot down and engage Russian airplanes in the sky. That means, frankly, you can't put those planes up there unless you're willing to knock out the anti-aircraft systems that the Russians have deployed, and not just in Ukraine, but in Russia and also in Belarus. So basically, a no-fly zone, if people understood what it means World War III. It means starting World War III. So I think there are a lot of things we can do to help Ukraine protect itself, both from airstrikes and missile strikes. But I think that people need to understand what a no-fly zone means. It's not some rule you pass that everybody has to oblige by. It's the willingness to shoot down the aircrafts of the Russian Federation, which is basically the beginning of World War III.
Okay, so first of all, in and of itself, I don't disagree with Rubio regarding a no-fly zone. That would be an act of war. It could be perceived as an act of war. I'm sure Putin would interpret it as such. But here's the thing. One of the good things about how President Trump conducted foreign policy when he was in office is people believed his threats. Adversaries or dictators knew that President Trump wasn't taking anything off the table, because President Trump never took anything off the table. He didn't tip his hand. He didn't say, oh, you know what? I promise we're not going to do this no matter what you do. I promise we're not going to send troops in no matter how brutal you get. Even if President Trump believed that about a certain situation, he never would have telegraphed that to Putin. And so when I hear Rubio saying, oh, you know, we're not gonna implement a no-fly zone, I'm like, okay, a no-fly zone is not a good idea, but why are you putting this off the table as a high-ranking United States senator, a government official who actually has influence over U.S. foreign policy? Why would you be telegraphing to Putin that we're not going to implement a no-fly zone? This is terrible foreign policy. It's very weak foreign policy. In fact, I very rarely give credit to Democrats because they so rarely deserve it, but credit where it's due. Do you know who actually is handling this correctly? Joe Manchin. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin. Take a listen to what he said.
Where do you want to stop?
So what does that mean for you? Are you right now, would you support a no-fly zone? Would you support doing this, which could trigger a wider conflict?
I understand that, but right now you don't signal to the nemesis of Putin. This is Putin's war. This is not the Russian people's war. This is Putin's war and his quest for whatever it may be. But to take anything off the table thinking we might not be able to use things because we've already taken them off the table is wrong. I would take nothing off the table, but I would be very clear that we're going to support the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian president, and this government every way humanly possible. Zelensky was very clear. He says, we don't need you to fight our fight. We don't need you to fly our planes or fly your planes into our war zone. Mm-hmm. We need the planes that we can fly ourselves, and we have them on the border.
He understands foreign policy. He said, we're not going to take anything off the table. Why would we tell Putin that we're going to respond only in weak ways? Nothing should be off the table. Now, that's not being said. Nobody's saying that they want a war with Russia. Nobody wants a war with Russia. Most everyone actually is in agreement that we don't want to send U.S. troops in, that a no-fly zone would cause World War III. Okay, but why are conservatives, Rubio specifically here, taking things off the table? A strong leader would never, ever do this.